Hey, so this past that we all have, how do we let it let go of its hold on us? How do we become not limited, controlled, restricted by our pasts? Like, I once had made this list of like the top 10 worst choices ever made. And I don't know if you've done anything like that, but we've all made these bad choices, right? Or like the top 10 bad things that have happened to us, right? We all were kids, and bullies, family, anger, just we've all had these experiences. Car accidents, teachers that have told us things we didn't want to hear. We've all had this. But what becomes fascinating for me is now that I'm not 16 anymore, I'm not 26 anymore, I'm not 36 anymore, but some of these still there's still a bit of a, you find that, well, do they still have somewhat of a hold? Or is there something that's not wanting to be touched? Or is there a sense of, gosh, if only that had been different? Or are we fully here? Because really, there only is the present, right? There really is only like we live. Do we live in the past? You can't even live in the past unless you have a time machine, right? We're here in the now, but still, it can hold us. But how does it do that? And for some, it really holds, because some people have had like really horrid traumatic experiences, and for others, it just holds a little bit. Like that time my girlfriend did that and broke up with me, right? It's like that can be horrible, really horrible too, but it can be really heavy, and it can be light. But for all of that, it's really the same. And so what is it that allows it to hold in your system? It's almost like you're going down a river and something just kind of holds on to the bottom. It's like, oh, I'm not letting go of that. How does it hold in your system, the past, and keep you from being fully open, present in kind of what the athletes and the artists call the flow? What restricts it? And then what do we do about it? And so that goes to the heart of this that I call effortless IFS, right? It's just, we just become aware of this that holds. And we kind of label it. Sometimes they're just sensations, but there's usually more of what we call an emotion, a sensation that also has kind of thoughts, a narrative, a story connected to it. And so we have, the three basic views of effortless IFS, and all three of these help us with the sense of letting the past let go and get back into the flow of the river. So how does that work? All right, I'll do this. I'll do just a really quick, short version of this. The first one is we just get clear of the discernment that there's the stories of the past, and we can label those and even give them we can give them names like, shame, fear, contraction, guilt, or a sense of an achiever. I really want that to be different than what it was. But the idea is that we become aware of these thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And by becoming aware of them, we're aware from this that sometimes we call it the sky, this self, this beingness that is fulfillment, that has an absence of lack and absence of resistance, where there's just causeless okayness. So this is our first view, just the discernment. And if you were playing with the kind of inside out idea, inside out movie, and like getting to know characters, you get to you could even see them as like animations, this that holds, that's like, God, that was so wrong. That person, my friend bullied me when I was in. Like, girl, she should not have broken up with me. It's like we can objectify them, right? And as we do that, we become aware of them, and then we are aware of them from this awareness, this space of this beingness, this okayness. And that's the first view, just that discernment. And the second view is a way of healing, which is of welcoming. We're really gonna go. The third view is where it gets really fun. But the second view is, sometimes I call it the sense of throwing a birthday party for everything that arises, the sense of a roomie's guest house, the idea that we have guests that come, and these are guests that have just stayed, right? These are guests that have stayed from, gosh, for some of us, they're like when we were 3 years old, they've stayed. And they're there. And this beautiful poem, if you don't know it, check it out, Rumi's Guest House. It's the idea of welcoming and entertaining them all, everything that arises in us. And so there's this sense of the spaciousness that's here, and all of our past, it's just welcomed. And what's so different about this is there's no resistance. There's just a welcoming, which as we dive into this work of Effortless IFS, we discover that this effortless welcoming is kind of the nature of the space that we are in. But we have aspects, we have parts that come up that say, this is not okay, you shouldn't be doing this, it should be different. And we just welcome those too, because they're in the guest house. That's the second one. The third one is really wild, all right? And this is just, and don't try to push yourself there, we all glimpse this. And this is the sense of, as we see, let's say it's just a really sad aspect of us that kind of a relationship ended, and it was just really sad. Gosh, I wish that hadn't happened. I wish he hadn't broken up with me. My life would have been so different. It's a sadness, and it's just kind of stuck, right? It's like we all know this in relationship, and something's like, and so this third view is it's an intimacy with what arises in us. And this one has a little spiritual side to it in this way, that as we're with, let's say, the sadness, it's like to see how intimate we can be with it. And as we become more intimate, almost like the separation kind of disappears. And then in that intimacy, it's like we look for what we call essence, beingness, presence. And as we start to see the presence, because ultimately everything is of this, right? Everything is of this, whatever your word is, presence, love, beingness, flow. And in the contraction itself, which we'll say the sadness is the contraction, if we can find and see and touch the kind of the essence, the presence, the okayness, that's it. It becomes a kind of a spontaneous letting go, and it's just a clarity that we see, kind of the truth of the okayness that everything is. But often in our systems, it takes a while to be able to get that intimate with some of these arisings in our systems. And that just kind of opens, but you all know this in different situations. And that's the third view. And the third view often leads to the sense that everything is of this beingness, of this self, of this okayness. That's where it ultimately goes. But this is the play. And then with that third view, there's one other piece. That as we start discovering that the contraction, let's say that sadness is ultimately of this essence, this beingness, like we start to get a sense of, wow, this aliveness, that it's that aliveness that is the fulfillment. Like just as we get to know self in this IFS world, the sense of this that is causeless okayness, causeless fulfillment, we get a sense of that. And if we discover that kind of meaning and satisfaction comes from the very nature of like this aliveness, and not from experience, not from, gosh, if only she had stayed with me, my life would have been this, and that's why we hold on to it. But as we discover that everything is of this essence, this self, this being, this which the very nature of its fulfillment, then it's a real nice shortcut for everything. Just the past just lets go, because there's no longer that charge of wanting it to be different, because we recognize that the meaning and fulfillment comes from this. And if that doesn't translate, don't worry. The first two are where we spend most of our time in my work, which is just that discernment and then the sense of welcoming. And that's where so much healing occurs, in the welcoming of that. And then ultimately we start getting flavors of this third view. I hope that's helpful, and nice to be with you today. As always, I love comments on YouTube or on our Facebook group. We got this amazing Facebook group that Laura Petraeus, and if you like what I'm sharing, you got something coming when you see my co-host Laura. And we got like 3,000 people on this, and we're just exploring all of this, and we're on it daily, and it's just such a rich exploration, and all these fascinating people, lots of facilitators of IFS and different healing practices and different non-dual spiritual practices. They all came and play with us. We have a lot of fun, and we have Zoom groups together on that. And I've got my Zoom groups that you can come to that are free on the effortlessifs.com. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love feedback, because sometimes it feels like I'm just sharing this out into the void. And hello, void. See you later. Bye.